So, welcome to my Q&A. It's the first one I've ever done, because I haven't been on YouTube that long, but for some reason, apparently 100 of you enjoy my content, so thank you very much. So, in celebration of that fact, I decided to ask you, my wonderful friends and subscribers to my channel, to ask me some questions, and there were some different ones, to say the least. But yeah, I'm going to go through them right now, so hold on tight, go and grab a refreshment, because yeah, this could take a while. Anyway, first question is from a friend of the channel, who's also the first proper guest on the Mean Machine Talks podcast, which, if you haven't seen yet, you probably should. Also, I should probably make you aware that's not something I've killed and stuck to my chest in vengeance. It is a lapel mic, so hopefully things will be sounding a lot clearer around here in future videos, and this one. Anyway, first question, as said, is from Steadysphere. He asks, congrats on reaching 100 subs so quickly. Thank you very much. My question to you, Dean, is if you could pick up one game from history to remake from the ground up that hasn't already been made, what would you choose? Kind regards, Shane, aka Steadysphere. That's a really difficult question because there's a lot of games I would like to see remade. One that comes to mind straight away would be Moonstone or the Amiga, because it's bloody violent and it's also incredibly fun to play. And I can imagine that over the internet being really funny to play, but that's not the game I'm going to pick. It's a strange one, but it's more for the nostalgia of my own self. So the game I'm going to pick is one that's called Magic Pockets. And if you've never played Magic Pockets, it was released on the Amiga. I think it was released on the PC, maybe. Two reasons. First of all, it was one of the first games sort of I and my family bought. We went to an Amiga show once. I think it was in Earls Court, and I was talking to Retro Man Cave about this, and we think we were at the same event at roughly the same time, at the time scale when we bought this. Magic Pockets is basically a very small character who looks very much like I did when I was on Games World, and I'm going to show a quick picture of that now, and also a picture of the guy of Magic Pockets. And essentially it's a platformer made by the Bitmap Brothers. It's a bit odd. He basically puts his hands in his pockets expand, and then he throws like these hurricanes at objects and things like that. I would love to see a remake of that. I know there's been a couple of remakes of Bitmap Brothers games recently that haven't quite hit the mark, but I think that could be really cool. And from a nostalgia point of view, I would love to see that come back. I've got so many cool childhood memories of that game. There's one really cool bit, and I can't remember if it was exactly every ending of each level, but definitely the first level. There's a bit where you get to the top, and there's a little a little bicycle. I'm laughing because I'm bringing back memories now. We get on a bike, and basically, I'm trying to remember if you wiggled the pad or if you batted the button. I think you wiggled the pad side to side, and basically it would correspond to each step, and if you got really quick you could sort of scoot along and then run over all the enemies and stuff like that, which sounds barbaric, but it isn't actually that bad, believe me. But yes, my answer is Magic Pockets because of the nostalgia factor, and also I think it would be a brilliant game to bring back. It would work really well on things like the Switch and maybe like a Steam type game, something like that. But yeah, there's the answer. On to question number 2, and this next question comes from two of my favourite YouTubers. However, this particular question came from one of them, and that is the Grumpy Retro Gamers, and this particular question came from Ben. So thank you very much for submitting the question. I shall now read said question, which goes, Hi Dean, GRG Ben here. Hello. What's the most obscure console you don't own that you'd like to, and why? Just to be kind, I'll allow pre-production systems that never saw the day of light. Warmest regards. Ben. Hoping that you've got some hard tips for me as well, Ben. Those who get that in-joke, congratulations.
Wow.
So I sat for a while and thought about this, and every time I came back to the same console going, yeah, probably, yeah. And that's the Fairchild Channel F, believe it or not. The F stood for fun. It was something that I didn't know before, but I do now. But yeah, I've always admired the Fairchild. I think it is a brilliant console. It was the first console to be cartridge-based, and it was almost like the godfather of console gaming, right? And I've always had this thing, like a bit like Toy Story, where I could place it at the top of my collection, and all the other consoles would look at it in awe, being like, "Oh, the almighty one is sitting above us." So yeah, that's pretty much why. But yes, I think it would be awesome to own one of those. As historic as it is and as brilliant as it is, I would love to get hold of a Fairchild. So if anyone does know one that's going for a reasonable price, do let me know, because I am more than willing to get it. But yes. There you go. A Fairchild Channel F is the answer. Right, on to question number 3. Another friend of the channel. I have a feeling I'm going to be saying that an awful lot throughout this. Which is Mark from Maz Gaming. Thank you very much for sending through a question, Mark. Greatly appreciated. And his question is a very difficult one. He asks, in your opinion, what is the best console of all time and the worst console of all time? I'm going to address the latter first, and then attempt the former. So, worst console of all time. I'm going to put the Virtual Boy there. Here's the reason why. I used to work in a computer game shop. I was dazzled by the aura of the Virtual Boy. One day, a customer had came in and traded one in. I thought, aha, brilliant. I finally get to play the console I've never been able to play on. I set it up. I put the cartridge in. I put my head in. I play for about 30 seconds, and all I can feel is my brain going, "Get out of here!" I then came back to the real world and had the worst headache I have ever had in my life. In fact, even till this day, nothing has come quite as close as the headache I got from that. It lasted 5 hours. It was really clever in what it tried to do, but I am astonished that Nintendo decided to release a console knowing damn well that it was going to give people chronic headaches. That's a pretty bad fail, in my opinion. So yeah, I would probably put that as the worst. Now, the best. That is incredibly difficult. The first one that did come to the mind, which I know will get people commenting like crazy in the chat, in the comment section of this video, is going to be the PlayStation 1. The only reason I said that is because it was one of the only times I had ever seen graphics of that nature being played on such speed, because I went round someone's house who had a Japanese PlayStation 1. And the first time I saw Tekken, and for everyone who knows me, knows that I adore Tekken wholeheartedly, it was the first time I'd seen it, and obviously it was running at a quicker frame rate, it was like 3D graphics that were super slick and really quick and stuff, and that stuck in my mind. So I would say in terms of, again, iconic nature, PlayStation 1. But for me, I think the two standout best consoles of all time, because I can't honestly pick one. You could put my head against the wall with a gun against it, I still wouldn't give you a straight answer, is the Super Nintendo and the Mega Drive. Hands down. Two of the greatest consoles that's ever been made, period. Build quality, attachments, game collection, standout iconic statuses, controllers, everything about them was brilliant. The two consoles were going head to head to the point where the businesses were literally slagging each other off in advertisements, which I don't think till this day probably has been done as much, and you're probably not allowed to do it anymore anyway. But those two consoles literally changed everything for everything. Now, I know I said the Fairchild was kind of the godfather, which it was, and we thank the Fairchild. Oh, thank you. But those two consoles quite literally changed the game for everything we have now, to the point where we're still having to go back and re-release modern day consoles, consoles with modern day tech of old consoles. The Mega Drive Mini and the SNES Mini, right? They're both coming or have been out already, and we're still going back to those two iconic consoles. So to answer your question, I can't give you a straight answer on one because I love both of them equally, but it is the Super Nintendo and the Mega Drive. So, next question is from OddPod. A really cool guy who really likes his nostalgia. So, this should be a great question. What is it? So, OddPod asks, what's the first cartoon I ever remember watching? Now, I had to kind of trawl through my memory for this, and the one standout cartoon that stood in my mind was Trapdoor, which was awesome. In fact, I've actually got it on DVD. Yeah, Trapdoor was awesome. I remember being a kid racing home from school just to watch it. Thoroughly remember watching that as a kid, and I loved it. It was awesome. Other great cartoon series that I enjoyed, the He-Man TV series, that was cool. What else was there? Mask was cool. Visionaries was cool. Joe, I'm amazed how many people have never seen Visionaries before. How can you have not seen Visionaries? He's amazing. He's amazing. But yes, I'm going off track again. But yes, first cartoon was Trapdoor. And if you've not seen Trapdoor, please go and watch it. He's hilariously funny and brilliant. And very dark. There's a lot of dark humour in it, funny enough, for a kid's for a kid's TV show. But yes, it is absolutely brilliant, and I loved Trapdoor as a kid. So please make sure you go and watch it if you haven't. But yeah, there's your answer. Trapdoor, first cartoon I ever watched. So on to another question, although this one is a text one, is from a friend of the channel. And also friend of some of my Twitch streams, who's created some incredibly hilarious pictures of me live on stream. And that is Hoson Biggs. So a big thank you to you for submitting this question. Hi, it's Hoson Biggs here. Loving the podcast guests you've had so far, and the charity streams amazing. Yeah, thank you very much. The podcast will be coming back soon. I had my little mini break. I've been trying to get some guests together, so very, very soon, probably in the next couple of weeks after this comes out, we'll then get back to the usual podcast streaming. Yeah. My question is, what is your biggest passion in life, and can you tell us a little bit more about it? Well, it's funny you say that. So I have had a few different passions in my life. Now, one of them you probably won't believe. Now, what I'm going to do first, this is going to catch you all off guard, and I can't wait, is I'm going to show you these. Now, no, I wasn't a clown. These are bowling shoes. Yes, 10-pin bowling. And, just to prove how much I was into my bowling, there is my ball. So that is a 12-pound ball that I used to throw down alleys. So yes, I used to be a bowler. Yeah, another sport that I thoroughly enjoy. This one was professionally drilled and has been configured to my exact fingers, so that it comes out and slips perfectly. But yeah, so yeah, used to enjoy bowling. However, the one passion that I did enjoy, which I've probably fallen out of love slightly, was photography. So I'll show some of my pictures now on screen. But the one thing I'm most proud of was I took a picture and submitted it to the Daily Telegraph for a competition, and it got printed. This got printed in a national newspaper. So yeah, that was the picture I took. I'll put a decent-ish version of it on screen now. But yeah, this actually got printed in a national newspaper, and yeah, actually won a competition. In fact, it actually won the photo of the month, I believe. Yes, it was photo of the month, and also it won photo of the year. So of the whole year of people submitting pictures, that was actually the one that won it. So yeah, photography used to be a massive part of my life, and I don't know, I kind of fell out of love with it. Confidence kind of, I don't know, slipped. Life kind of took over, work, stress. But yeah, my confidence took a bit of a nosedive, and I just kind of put the kit away, to be honest. And I never really got back into it, but it's only now kind of, you know, through doing YouTube, having to get camera equipment out again, that I'm having to kind of relearn everything that I already knew. But you know, sometimes again you have to fall down to rise back up, right? And that's kind of where I want to get to. And looking back at some of the old pictures, even just looking back at that was good memories. I mean, when was that? That was printed in, I can't remember. Oh, gosh, was it that long ago? Saturday, September the 7th, 2013. Wow, I didn't even realise it was that long ago. Wow, that's scary. But yeah, so I mean, it's something that I want to get back into, and I will eventually get back into it. I want to try and combine photography with gaming as well. So I don't know whether that's doing photos at events or something like that. But what I really want to do is try and do some cool stuff with like old retro games, so set up little theme things and do pictures and stuff like that. So yeah, photography used to be a massive part of my life. It was something I used to pick up all the time. I used to go out regularly taking pictures, but you know, life takes over and yeah, things happen and that just kind of fades away. And with bowling, I mean, I don't know if I will ever be able to throw that down an alley again with my knee, but it's something I would like to do in the future, so we will see. But yeah, if you ever want that one mate who turns up to your event and kind of shows everyone up by doing a bit of bowling, I could be your man. Yeah, we'll see. But yes, but yeah, for bowling and photography used to be the two things that I used to love, and hopefully I'll get back into it. So there's your answer. Hope that kind of answers the question. There you go. So, on to the next question, and this one comes from Rich Gizmo, who is one of the creators of one of my favourite games, Nature's Zombie Apocalypse, which if you haven't seen me play, I played once, when was it? I think in no, yes, I can't remember, I think it was December, and then I also played it during my Game Blast charity stream, which is brilliant because it had like little things where people could type in the chat and it would have an influence in the game. If you haven't played Nature's Zombie Apocalypse, please go and get it. Please. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. I will put links to Rich and everyone else who's submitted a question and also to Nature's Zombie Apocalypse below. So go and check that out after you've watched all this. Cheers. Anyway, Rich asks, what is the meaning of life? Wow, that's a powerful start there, Rich. I sat for a while and tried to work this one out, as many scholars have now spent centuries, aeons, trying to work this one out. And the final stop I got to was happiness. There you go. There's my answer to the meaning of life. However, his second question has a little bit more gaming meaning behind it. Are you a GoldenEye odd job or a big head mode? Right. Anybody who plays multiplayer GoldenEye, if you don't get those two references, essentially you can play a plethora of relatively old to modern-ish James Bond characters. I'm trying to go through my head. I think that's right. So you can play all the GoldenEye crew, and then there's a load of historical people from previous James Bond games like Baron Samedi and Oddjob being one of them. Now, if you play as Oddjob, he's very small, which means if you try and shoot a bugger, you've got to actually manually point down. So if anybody picks Oddjob when you're playing GoldenEye, don't play with them because they're cheaters. And the other one is pretty self-explanatory, which is basically everyone gets a massive bloated head, which, to be honest, is quite fun. So to answer your question, I'm a big head mode kind of guy, not an Oddjob kind of guy. I never thought I would ever hear myself say that. Right, next question. And they keep rolling thick and fast with the questions. This one is from a very good friend from Japan, AVX Studios. I salute you, sir, all the way from Nippon, which is Japan to everyone else who doesn't know. AVX Studios asks one of the most difficult questions in this Q&A, so take a seat because this may take a while. If you had 10,000 subscribers and they all wanted daily videos, what sort of content would you make? Now, I sat for about half an hour racking my brains with this question, and it took me a while to come up with an answer. So, hypothetically speaking, say I had 10,000 subs and, I don't know, this was paying for my life and I was living off YouTube and content creation. I sat back and thought, well, what type of content would I want? So I think what I would try and do is create almost like a news channel, but a proper news channel that's not being paid or influenced, you know, straight, honest gaming reviews and news straight from the news sources and straight from people reporting on it. So I think what I could do, what would be nice, is to try and get a group of people together, set up something, a mini studio, and then run it like a news channel. So, you know, maybe have, as crazy as it sounds, a 24-hour Twitch channel that's like a news channel. And then off the back of that, the YouTube channel would then have, you know, kind of daily reviews that would maybe be a few minutes long. We'd pick a subject, maybe like top fighting games or top platformers of the past 10 years or something crazy like that. and run it like that. And that was kind of the only answer I could really come up with, and that's probably what I would do with it. And that's essentially what I want to get to one day, is to essentially have a small studio of people, like-minded people, maybe people like you, who come together to create great content and do it for the greater good of gaming and for the community, essentially. So, yeah, to answer your question, that's exactly what I would do. So, kind of, a 24-hour news channel is a bit excessive, but yes, you kind of get what I mean. That kind of news feed that's constantly always going and always on feed, as it were, and then kind of like a daily content where there's like a best of, and then maybe like an impartial review, kind of like maybe a retro section, like maybe every Wednesday's retro, every Friday's a new game, every Monday is a Q&A session with, a developer. There you go. There's a format I've just made off the top of my head. So yeah, there's your answer. Hope that got that right. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. Let's see what happens if I ever get to 10,000 subscribers. Then we can come back and point at this video and be like, you lied. You were telling lies. You weren't telling the truth. But anyway, that's a rough answer to the question. But yeah, it took me a while to come up with that. But great question. So the next questions are all going to be video ones. So without further ado, I'm going to cut over to Sega Head. So, Sega Head, what's your question?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Sega Head here with a very quick question for MeanMachineDean. What, I repeat, what would you say is the dumbest name for a retro game? When I say retro, I mean like PS1 and further back into the past. PS1's 20 years old now, more in fact, so I would say that's the most recent you can get in retro, and then down. For me, I would say that the stupidest name for a retro game is Cheeky Cheeky Boys, because of obvious reasons. We are the cheeky girls, you are the cheeky boys, you are the cheeky boys. So there you are, Dean, there's your question, and I'm looking forward to your answer. Speak to you soon.
Well, thank you very much for getting that earworm stuck in my head. Thanks, Sega Head. Anyway, yes, Cheeky Cheeky Boys is definitely up there for being one of the worst. One game comes to mind, and I've actually got the picture of it in front of me, because the more I think about it, the more ridiculous it gets. Now, I'm not kidding you when I say this. The game is called Tongue of the Fat Man. And yes, that is Tongue of the Fat Man, and it was released on the Commodore 64 on DOS Windows, and I didn't realise this, but it was also released on the Mega Drive. The only way I can describe it is the worst beat-em-up possibly of all time. Yes, even worse than Shaq Fu. You basically play, I think it's a choice of 3 different aliens in a really awful beat-em-up side thing. It's just bad. I'll try and put a couple of clips of it somewhere around this video. It's awful. The name is awful. The game is awful. And yes, eventually you do get to fight the Fat Man, not his tongue. But yeah, it is bloody awful. And that's got to be one of the worst. Close second place, Attack of the Mutant Camels. Being from Egypt, pretty bad, isn't it? Mutant Camels. Now a camel can give you a nasty spit if you annoy it, but mutant? It's a bit harsh, isn't it? Anyway, yes. Tongue of the Fat Man is my answer. And yeah, if you've not played it, I probably wouldn't go and buy it. I'd probably emulate it and then set fire to that emulated version, if that's even possible. If you do manage to do that, let me know. But yes, it is bloody awful, and there's my answer. So, there you go. And thanks for submitting the question as well. And keep up the great work that you're doing as well. Your content is brilliant, and I'm thoroughly enjoying what you're doing, sir. So carry on doing what you do. So for the next question, all the way from Japan, it's not AVX Studios, it's Bex from Trista Bytes.
This is Bex from Trista Bytes, and yes, that is a ginormous spider behind me. Not entirely sure it's friendly. So even though I'm all the way out in Japan, in Roppongi currently, I still need to know, does your Games World jacket still fit? And exactly how much do you like pandas in Tekken? Bye!
You just had to bring up the pandas, didn't you? You couldn't go all the way to Japan and forget about the pandas. No, you had to bring the pandas back to me. in case you don't know what we're talking about, I started a couple of Twitch streams a long time, well, I say a long time ago, and basically I was playing Tekken in them, and I got perfected twice by someone who was playing a panda character, and yes, Bex witnessed that and is never going to let me forget that, so thanks a lot, Bex. Now, to answer your second question, I need to lean over here and grab something, so bear with me. We have the original Eliminator Champion Jacket on Games World. And your question was, does it still fit? Well, young lady, the answer is yes, because I tried it earlier. So, without further ado, there we go. Let's see if I can do it up. This could be quite interesting. Hang on. Apologies if this is going to ruin the sound on the lapel mic, but you can hear me fighting Zip. Come on. Come on, Zip. I know it's been a while, but you can do it. There we go. The survey says, yes, it does. Slightly. But it does do up. And there's proof that the Games World jacket still fits the Master. So there we go. Proof that my historical win when I was 9... still fits. Still looks pretty good. I'm also thinking of trying to get some of these made. Obviously not with Games World on it, but with my own logo, just for nostalgia purposes. But yes, to answer your question, yeah, it does. I'm now going to escape out of this, so I'll be back in a minute. Right, that's better. But yes, the Games World jacket does still fit after all these years from when I was 9. But yeah, it's something that I cherish, and it's the one thing I own that Quang from Asobi Tech doesn't own. Come on. But yes, thank you very much for sending your question all the way from chat. Oh, hang on a minute. We're just getting notice of... you just sent another video in. What's that? Oh. That's a shame, isn't it? Seems karma has come to get you for all the pandas. Never mind. Anyway... on to the next question. So, time for another question now, and this one comes from, you've guessed it, friend of the channel, HDE. So, come on then, let's have the question.
Hi Dean, it's HDE. Congratulations on reaching your first subscriber milestone. My question for you is quite a deep one. Given that God is infinite and space as we know it is expanding exponentially at a rate of knots, would you like this biscuit?
That's a different question, for sure. Now, I did take a very in-depth look at the biscuit. From what I can see and from some intensive research that I've been doing on biscuits, I can see that the biscuit that you are holding is indeed a chocolate digestive made by McVitie's. Other branded chocolate-covered confectionery is also available. However, I will accept your biscuit, but I will raise you a chocolate hobnob in return. I will wait for your response in the comment section below on whether you accept my gift of a chocolate hobnob, which will be mailed to you very safely to your headquarters of HDE. So hopefully that answers your Q&A question. Confectionery. It brings us together. Yes, and you've guessed it, over to friend of the channel, the Gaming Muso. So, let's have your question, James.
Hello, Dean, the Gaming Muso here. But I've got a question for you, and so does Murphy, apparently. And he comes. What do you want? What? Come here, then. Come here. Murphy says hello. So obviously, as I'm a musician, I'm doing some video game covers and stuff. I'd like to know, what's your favourite video game soundtrack and why?
Wow. That's a question I was not expecting from you, although it was game related, so I guess I should have really. I was also expecting you to have half a Switch cartridge hanging out of your nose, but we can't have everything. In case you're wondering what I'm talking about, James managed to fit half a copy of Doom on the Switch up his nose for charity. So, yeah, that's now become a thing. Yeah, well done, James, I think. Anyway, back to the question. So, I had written down a few answers, which I've categorised into 16-bit, modern-ish, and then a PC title, because I can't pick one. It's too difficult to pick a single gaming soundtrack. So I shall go through this. Sort of 16-bit, I've put down Streets of Rage 2 and Donkey Kong Country, because these two games have sat ingrained in my mind of soundtracks. Streets of Rage 2 soundtrack, you can put it on. Straight away I will know it. Pretty much every level, the start, the end sequence, I know the thing back to front. It is a fantastic soundtrack, and it is iconic and brilliant, and I love it very much. The second is more of a technical reason, and that's Donkey Kong Country. Now, there's a video that's on YouTube, I may link it in the description actually, which basically explains how the actual music was put together for Donkey Kong Country, and it is brilliant when you actually realise the technicalities of what they actually had to go to make the music they did on that cartridge, with the limitations that they had, and the quality of the soundtrack is absolutely brilliant. Especially the kind of underwater level. If you hear it, most of you would know the soundtrack straight away. It's fantastic, and for that reason, and the iconic story of nostalgia, which I'm now going to go into, of why I love the game. So, in case you haven't heard of the story of how I first got Donkey Kong Country, basically it was a Christmas. Looked in a corner, there's a big box all wrapped up. I was like, what's that? I was thinking, maybe the NES is going to get retired. Maybe there's something cool coming. I don't know what it is. I go to bed. Struggle to get to sleep. I finally get to sleep. I get rudely awakened by the sound of cannon fire and monkeys and other weird noises. Sounds like a weird party. Won't go into that. But yeah, I don't know why I just said that. Oh dear. See, the lights are on, that's the pressure. Yeah, so anyway, weird noises, monkeys, cannons. I'm thinking, what the hell is going on downstairs? So I quietly creep down the stairs, and I eventually turn the corner to find partial wrapping paper sort of dashed to the side. My dad sat in front of the TV with a Super Nintendo and a copy of Donkey Kong Country, and he's playing it. And I'm just standing there like, what? And then he clocks that I've seen him playing My Gift before I've seen it. And he's like, what are you doing out of bed? I'm like, well, what's going on here? Like, why is there a Super Nintendo? And he was like, yeah, it's yours, kind of thing. Yeah, and I'm like, okay, cool, can I play it? And he was like, no, you're not playing it till tomorrow. I'm like, for real? Like, there's what? So yeah, so I had to wait until tomorrow to play it. But yeah, that's how I got Donkey Kong Country in my Super Nintendo, which I still have till today. And in fact, the copy of Donkey Kong Country that I've got actually came with the soundtrack, and I've still got it, and it still works, and it's still bloody brilliant. So yeah, so those two. Coming on to some of the more recent-ish games, there's Final Fantasy VII. I put that in because a friend who I used to work with a long time ago forced me to play it. I'd never played any Final Fantasy games up to that point. I never really played any RPGs to that point, to that extent. I mean, I guess Pokemon, could that be classed as an RPG? I guess it is. So yeah, he forced me to play it, and I did, and then realised how actually brilliant it is. So yeah, so I mean, there's bits in that soundtrack and that game that will stay ingrained in my head, including the victory sound, which is now ingrained in my mind. Like that. And the other one is Halo 2. Another brilliant title. I've actually got the soundtrack here on CD. Just the boot up sequence of hearing that first symphony start, I remember getting it and just having pure chills up my back. Back of the hair and the neck's just standing up. so many brilliant parts, so many genres they tried to cover within that soundtrack. I think Breaking Benjamin was on one of the tracks. It was just a fantastic album, and in fact the game soundtrack was brilliant as well, and I'd probably dare to say it's probably one of the best Halos period, in fact. But yeah, so many memories, like you can play a song from it and it will just bring back that level straight away. So there's a lot of nostalgia that off the back of that album that I remember. And then the final one, which may catch you off guard, but I'm just going to play a sample of it now. In case you're wondering, that's the Hell March from Command & Conquer Red Alert, and that will stay ingrained in my soul forever. I remember playing Red Alert on the PC, and it was brilliant. I was a huge fan of the Command & Conquer series, by the way. Loved it. Didn't really like the modernish stuff, but the earlier stuff, like Red Alert 2, Generals was probably the last one I played that I really enjoyed, and 0 Hour. Fantastic, but that song, oh boy, there's nothing more than getting your whole army and just marching it towards someone's base whilst having the Hell March playing in the background. But yeah, that song will stay ingrained in my soul. So it's not quite the single answer you were probably looking for, but hey, I gave you a multitude of answers, so I'm more of a giving person, and there we go. We gave you more than one answer, so that's what I do. So there you go. There's your answer. I hope that answers your question, James, and congratulations on passing 1,000 subs, by the way. It's good to see you back. Let's hope that 1,000 subs stay this time. And your recent work has been absolutely fantastic, and you deserve every piece of credit that's coming your way. The recent stuff you've been making with the game soundtracks, Road Avenger, which now causes me nightmares because I played it on the stream, and God, that game. Oh dear, flashbacks. No. What the fuck? Yeah, I mean, you're doing great work, and I cannot wait to see what other soundtracks you're doing in the future. So really good job, James. And again, thank you for submitting a question. Speaking of which, it's time to move on to the next one. Right, on to the next question. And it's from somebody who's absolutely lovely in the retro community. In fact, she's even got it in her name. The Retro Princess. So, what's your question? Couldn't quite hear you there, dear. I did add subtitles for anyone who couldn't hear, but yes, her question was, what is my favourite band? And for me, it is a one-word answer. Metallica. Yeah! Yeah, Metallica. Simple as. They've got me, their music has got me out of a lot of very hard times. When I need that pick-me-up and I need a power boost. You need to get the power. That's the go-to band for me. I probably play some of their music at least twice a week. I've been to the O2 to see them twice, which I will now show some video clips and pictures of and stuff around. But yes, Metallica have been there for me when I needed them, I guess. So yes, Metallica is my choice of my favourite band. And if you've not gone to see them live, they are bloody brilliant. The 2 times I went to see them, I was incredibly lucky to have VIP seats. What? I was very close to the stage, but it was quite weird because I had VIP seats, and just in front of me was the mosh pit, and it felt very odd that you're watching people mosh and you're in this VIP box area, and you're like, oh yes, it's very posh round. Well, it's not really posh, it's a metal gig. What am I talking about? We were in this kind of VIP bit, and it's quite a funny story. Well, it wasn't funny for the guy. I kind of turned to my mate and my cousin who was with me, and we were like, what the hell's going on in the mosh pit? And some guy had his phone out. Never do this at a metal gig. He pulled his phone out, obviously thinking he was clever in the mosh pit. Some guy bumped into him, his phone went flying, he turns around to the guy, smacks the guy in the face, and then about 10 of the biggest security guards you've ever seen have just come and got this guy and dragged him away. Yeah, I don't know why I just brought that story up, but anyway, yeah, so funny things that you see. Oh, another really interesting thing that happened at a Metallica gig was I was taking... What was happening? I was trying to take a selfie. I didn't have a decent smartphone back then, so I was trying to use like a compact digital camera. And as I went to take it, I kind of like half slipped, and I sort of grabbed the chair behind me, and I like re-stood back up. And as I looked behind me, there was Bill Bailey, and I was like, "Oh, it's Bill Bailey." And he went, "Oh, you're all right." And I was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Crap, right." So I grabbed the phone and then looked back, and he was gone. And I was like, "Did I just imagine Bill Bailey was behind me, or what?" And I looked up, and he'd just left, and I was like, "How did you get from there to there unless you flew?" So yeah, I think he has wizard powers, essentially. The other hilarious story of one of the trips that I made was right at the end of the gig, they were handing out the mic to like people in the audience and stuff like that, in the mosh pit, high up, this, that, and the other. And we were kind of walking out because we were like, if we don't leave now, we're going to end up like stupid late back at home. And I had work the next day, and yeah, it was rough. But they were handing out the mics, and everyone's like, "I'm from New York, and I love Metallica." And then like they cut to someone else who was like from Spain and from Portugal and Russia, and yeah. And then it just as me and my mate exited the top, we just heard, "And I came from Egypt." And we were like, "What?" Turned around, looked at the guy, and we were like, "Why didn't you talk to us? Why?" And he was like, "Yeah, we came all the way from Egypt. We love you guys, this, that, and that." And they were like, "Yeah, you guys rock. Yeah, you came all the way from Cairo. You guys are amazing." I'm like, really? Like, wow. So yeah, for the entire trip back, me and my mate felt incredibly sad. But never mind. We can't have everything. We can't be everywhere as Egyptians. But anyway, it was a great evening. And yes, to finally put the bow on your question, Metallica is the band of choice for me. There you go. On to the next question, and this one comes from Neil from the Retro Man Cave. So, Neil, let's have your question.
Hello Dean, I hope you're doing well. My question for you today is really prompted by some work I've been doing recently on the Amstrad Mega PC. This is a device where Alan Sugar decided to smash together a Sega Mega Drive and a 386 PC and give you a hybrid of both, and I kind of like it. I've nearly finished working on it, and if you check out my channel you'll see that series in progress. It's also prompted by Apple's recent announcement of their new Mac Pro, which, to me, it looks like a combination of a cheese grater and a tower PC. It's not a great look, and you'll know exactly what I mean if you've seen it. So, my question for you, sir, is if you could combine one piece of technology and one thing, it can be anything, what would the hybrid be that you create? Thanks for answering my question in advance.
Well, if you are going to take a sip out of your branded mug, then I thought I would do the same. There we go. My very own MeanMachineDean mug. And if you would like to purchase one of these, there is a link in the description. Cheap plug. So, very good. So, your question caught me by surprise. I remember us just talking about what you were going to ask me, and I was not quite expecting this. So, I had a long, hard think about this, and I was trying to think of what could I combine that is tech and non-tech to help people's lives. So, I sat there and thought about things like things that fold up clothes for you, and then I realised that had already been done, and then I was thinking about things to wash up, and then that's just a dishwasher. But then I thought of something that could have been an absolute master stroke of genius. Hear me out. Now, anyone's ever entertained guests, there's always the fuss that you have to make with dressing a table and all that malarkey and setting things out and then this and making sure you got plates and all. Anyway, my invention is this. Check this out. You load said table with plates, your cutlery, all of your stuff you'd normally have at a party, right? And with a click of a button, it lays the entire table for you, right? Here's the clever bit. You get to the end of a night, you've had a bit of a party, you may have had one of the two drinks that you probably shouldn't have, or in my case, you're just knackered, and you can't be bothered to tidy it. And that may sit there for a few hours, in some people's cases, a few days not being touched. However, With my invention, you click a single button, it clears the entire thing out into a dishwasher, and then another button relays the entire table ready for your next party. There we go, a self-preparing table that combines tech and normal stuff to make a party accessible table that dresses itself. It's the best I could come up with. I really came up with some random stuff, but it was the only practical thing I could come up with that kind of made sense. The only other thing I thought of was a self-laying wallpaper machine where you loaded a thing in like a printer and it kind of like rolled up the wall and just laid the thing for you. That's the only other thing I could come up with. So a self-dressing party table and a automatic feeding wallpaper machine. Yeah. Sorry, best I could come up with. But yeah, hope that answers your question. Kinda. This time is one of my other favourite YouTubers and a brilliant person, incredibly talented. It's Bill from Late Night Reviews and his dog. So Bill, what's your question?
Okay. High five. Yes, I know. High five. This is a question for MeanMachineDean. My first question... It's okay, have it, Wilson. There you go. My first question is, what do you think of the mini consoles? Do you think they're cool or do you think they suck? My next question is, what do you think of animals? I love animals. I love animals.
To answer your two-headed question, what do I think of the mini consoles? Well, I know there's been a bit of flack around some of them, but I think they're brilliant. You could argue it's not the same tech and it's not the same feel, but it's a quick and accessible way of getting nostalgia fixes, right? I mean, we've all moved on to modern TVs, or unless some of us have still got CRTs like I still have. It's a great way to get friends over and just relive those old happy days. So I think from a nostalgia point of view and an ease of access, I think they're really cool. I've got a couple of other things. I've got one called a Retro Freak, where essentially you can dock in your old games as well as load ROMs on with a SD card, which kind of does both at the same. But it's a little bit more expensive and a little bit more upkeeping with updating firmware and stuff like that. Whereas these mini consoles, you kind of just plug them in and off they go, right? Which I quite like. I mean, I know there's hardcore fans who, especially with the PlayStation Mini, definitely got very irate. And quite rightly so, with the choice of games and some of the other settings and lack of input that they kind of put into it. But to be honest, like the NES and the SNES versions that came out were pretty good. I recently bought my brother the Neo Geo one, which comes in like a very small arcade cabinet, which you can also play with control pads as well. And to be honest, for what it is, it serves its purpose. So yeah, I think the mini consoles are pretty cool. I like them. I think they're quite quirky, and like I said, they serve a purpose of bringing nostalgia into the modern world in a very quick and accessible way. So yeah, I like them. To answer your second question, I love animals. Love them. If you was to ask what my favourite is, though, it is a very difficult one. I've always been fascinated by birds. Someone's going to take that out of context, I know. But no, I've always been fascinated by birds, especially birds of prey. In fact, I actually did some falconry, which I'm going to try and show some pictures and videos of somewhere, which I did a couple of years ago for my birthday. It was fantastic, and it was just awesome to have something of that power just on your arm. But yeah, birds of prey, cats, dogs, pretty much everything. Yeah, I love animals, so big thumbs up from me for animals. So yeah, animals for the win. Hope that answers your question. And keep up the great work, Bill. I'm loving what you're doing with the new stuff. It was nice to see Michael Fish make that absolutely horrific error in his weather forecasting again. So if you have not seen Bill's latest videos, please go and visit his channel. Links will be in the description below. And yeah, thanks for submitting your question. Hope that answers everything. Right, and the next question is all the way from the land down under. It's in Spacies, so come on, Brian. Let's have your question.
G'day, Brian here from Spacies, and this is a question for MeanMachineDean. Mate, if you were to grab any controller from the past, any controller, and make it so that it's compatible with the latest console generation, that is the Xbox One, PlayStation 4 and the Switch, what controller would that be? My answer to this would be the Nemco Negcon. Twisty! This controller was awesome. A lot of people didn't really get into it and they didn't like it. It was a real hit or miss affair when you use this controller. But I would not play Ridge Racer any other way. So, what controller would you like to be raised from the dead? Have a good day.
Whoa, a Negcon. I haven't seen one of those in years. And I agree, it was absolutely fantastic. It was weird because, like, the first time I had ever played with one, I really couldn't get on with it. It took me ages, but the moment you got used to it, it was a fantastic idea. And yeah, I'm quite surprised that many people didn't really appreciate it for what it was. I thought it was a brilliant idea, but hey, what do I know, eh? Anyway, to answer your question, I spent, again, another half an hour. I've literally got a piece of paper somewhere. If I find it, I'll take a picture and put it on Twitter. Of all of the answers and all the things that I've come up with, including the weird table clearing thing and the wallpaper and whatnot, and including this, I was going, what control pad? And I sat there and went, well, okay, let's go for the standard. Atari 2600, one of my favourite joysticks of all time. Right, wouldn't work because it's got one button. Fail. Even if you wanted to add more buttons, there's not enough real estate on the thing to even put more buttons. So that's out. Then I thought about Amigas, and I was like, again, same problem. It's only got one button that actually functions. Even if you try and add more to different styles of joystick, you still got the same problem. And then me and a colleague at work were talking about this, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. Hear me out. In fact, I've had to sit up for this. If you have never played Steel Battalion on the original Xbox, it is brilliant. The only way I can describe Steel Battalion is the biggest flipping control pad you've ever seen in your life. In fact, it's not even a control pad. It's a thing that combines together to make two big sticks and buttons and switches and dials and pulleys and everything. It's brilliant. And it has foot pedals. And imagine MechWarrior on crack. It's basically the only way I can describe it. I want to see a modern day version of Steel Battalion or something like that with an upgraded version of that stick with fully moving like dials and switches. I don't care, when you get shot at, smoke comes out of the damn thing, you hit the wrong button, you get an electric shock. I don't care. I want to see that thing made modernised for the modern world. I would, the dream would be VR headset, Oculus Rift, pick your thing, Vive, whatever the hell you want, and that in front of you. And you can feel it, and your pedals, and it'd be so good. It'd be so good. But yes, to answer your question, the Steel Battalion flight controller deck, I don't know what it's called. But yeah, that thing. I've probably put pictures and stuff around, but yeah, I want that modernised. Even if it had like little touch screens, or I don't know, like what could it have? Like little LCD screens that did things, and yeah, that would be amazing. That for the modern generation would be awesome. Even for the PC. But yeah, there you go. So there's my answer. The Steel Battalion arcade stick flight thingy controller pedaled thing. Yeah, that. Let's call it the Steel Battalion controller. There we go. Cheers, Brian. So, next question is from Sorax Space. This should be a good one. So, over to you. Be gentle.
Hi Dean, Sorax here. As you know, I love really bad things, which is why I like making really bad videos on my channel. Now, I love gaming. I know you do, and I'm sure most of your viewers do too. Just talking about all of those cherished memories that we have, just those pure moments of happiness. I'm sure your viewers would love to hear that, so I thought I'd ruin it. So my question for you is, what is the single worst video game that you have ever played, and why was it so horrendously bad? For me, it's probably this little beauty. Bubsy 3D on the PlayStation. Speaks for itself, really. just to address the balance a bit and not put a complete downer on your whole video, which was tempting, I must say. I would also like to ask you what your top 2 games of all time are. And that's a bit weird asking top 2 and not just one, but you mentioned it on a previous podcast, so I already know what that is. So yeah, top 2 games of all time. Congratulations on the recent success of your channel. It's really well deserved. I'm loving what you're doing, so keep up the good work. And yeah, cheers mate. See you later. Sorax signing out. Well, turning off the camera.
Well, thanks for the compliment and not ruining my show, I guess. No, really appreciate it. Thank you very much, mate. Yes, hoping to grow the channel in many different ways, going different paths, trying new stuff out. And yeah, so to answer your question, your first question, which is one of the worst games I've ever played. Now, there is a 50-cent game that comes to mind that was released, I think, on the PS2 and original Xbox. Now, you're probably wondering why I've picked that out compared to all the other games that I could have gone for. Here's the reason. The computer game shop that I worked in for a long time, I remember we used to have people from the press used to come in and give us like these talks about what's great about the new games that are coming out and stuff like that. And they used to give us a showcase. Now, guy from a specific company, not going to mention them, came in and he was like, this is the new biggest game, it's going to sell well. And to be honest, the game actually did, because 50 Cent was kind of at his height peak at the time with his music and kind of everything he was doing. Now, to the game. The game was awful. I nearly said something really bad there. Yes, it is awful. He showed us the first level, which was bad. And I remember turning to my store manager and one of the other colleagues, and we just looked at each other like, how can this guy even be promoting this game? It is that bad. Level 2, and I kid you not, I couldn't believe this. Level 2 is starting from point A to point B. Now, point A starts you in the middle of nowhere, and basically point B is a door that you can see straight in front of you. And all you do is you press forward, click a button, level done. It was almost like they completely forgot to do level 2. It was like, guys, we finished this game, but I found the script for level 2 and it's blank. The last thing says walk through a door. Yeah, we'll just do that. We've done the rest of it, so yeah, don't worry about it. All right, cool, yeah. Right, down the pub? Yeah, right, cool, wicked, cheers. It is, honestly, if you want to go and play an awful game, go and play that. It is... Oh, man. I'm trying to actually think of one thing that's good about it. I mean, if you're into rap and hip-hop and you like 50 Cent's older stuff, you may like the game. Purely based on that. But if you're playing it with headphones on that are just dubbing out the sound, and you're completely going at it without any music or any care for what he's done previously with his music, it is bloody awful. Graphically, awful. Gameplay, awful. Controls, horrific. Game level design, awful. Just awful. It's bad. If you see it, buy it and burn it is probably what I would recommend. In fact, that's not such a bad idea. No. Do I own it? I don't think I do. I do own some bad DVDs. I don't think I own that. Thankfully. Although it's now probably going to be something that I should go and look for. There we go. I've set myself a new challenge because of you. Right. That's the first part done. Greatest games of all time. Now, he was correct in mentioning one. The first one being, and this always gets people going, oh, it's so obvious, meh, is Metal Gear Solid 1. Reasons for... I was blown away, the technology, the smart AI, the storyline, all of that. Right, so that's one done, okay? Let's put that behind us. Number 2 took a very, very, very long time, and I literally trawled through most of my retro collection going, yeah, maybe, yeah, possibly, and then it hit me like a freight train. In fact, it didn't. It was a box about yay big that had quite a few discs in it. And yes, it is Shenmue 2 for my second favourite game of all time. I played the first one and I absolutely adored it. I had played pretty much everything you could do in the game, including all the mini games, including driving the forklift racing. That was different. But yeah, the thing I liked about the second one is they kind of took everything that was crap about the first one, erased it, and then did everything that was brilliant that you could put in a game. And it was fantastic. And until this day, it's still one of those games that I can play and just lose myself into and not really care about what's going on in the world. It's brilliant. But yeah, there's a lot of people who haven't played Shenmue who really, really should. And I think a lot of people are put off because the first one had a lot of glaring issues, like you had to get to specific save points before you could save, and at the start anyway, if I remember rightly. I think that's right. You know, the forklift driving was an absolute arse to try and get through. I mean, who wants to have a job whilst you're playing the game? Like, you do, like, I don't know, 8 hours or whatever you do as your job, 12 hours or whatever you're doing, shift work. You come home and then do another shift. That's the last thing you want to do. So thankfully they stripped a lot of that out of the second one. But again, the continuation of the storyline, there was little nuances, like if you fired up the second game and you had a save file from the first, you could bring that into the second game. So just little touches like that were really nice. And yeah, graphically it was great, the gameplay was great, the soundtrack was great, and I loved it. And I can literally go and play it now and lose myself into it for hours to come. So yeah, that will be why I'd put that into number 2. There is many titles I could slot into there, but if I could pick one that I could go into that retro room that I say retro room like it's a corner that I've got, and pull out one game that I would play right now back to back without any fear of sort of losing track, it would be that. That would be my go-to. So there you go. Hope that answered your question. You give me a difficult one, didn't you? As other people have. Damn you. And for the next question, it comes from Stan, PC Gaming. So, let's have your question, Stan.
MeanMachineDean and Dean, for your Q&A. This is my question, not so much yours, because you don't really bother, are you? No. Okay, well, my question to you, because I know you're on the fence on this, and I want a full-on debate between both of you. With the Prime Ministerial debate, when it comes down to it, who is your vote going to go to? Is it with the greater bearded Muso? Or is it with the pizza-burning Sazzledoon? I expect your answer in forthwith. Bye.
Now, for anyone who's not going to understand this in context, Gaming Muso, who you just saw in a previous question, last question, I can't remember. Depends how I put this together. A previous question, let's go with that. And his partner, Sarah, had an online discussion. Whilst our current government is in disarray about who's going to take the leadership, they both decided to stand for Prime Minister. So, knowing myself and knowing that James is a mild savage, I decided to personally side with Sarah, aka Sazzledoom. Whereas my other evil half decided to, because he's a savage, he decided to side with James.
Gaming Muso, you have decided to opt for politics. I will join your cause.
So yeah, for me, it's Sazzledoom. So yeah, there's your answer. So that brings to the end of the Q&A, and I just wanted to say a big thank you to all of you who are subscribed to the channel. Without you, I wouldn't be doing this. And also a huge thank you to all of the YouTubers and friends and supporters who have sent all the questions in for the Q&A. Again, I couldn't have done this without you guys actually making the content and submitting your questions. So a huge thank you again for all of the questions that you got. Some of them were challenging, some of them were funny, but all in all, fantastic. And I'm going to put links to every single person who submitted a question to the Q&A in the comment section below, and make sure for any of the YouTubers you please go and sub to all of them. They are all incredibly talented people, and they really do deserve your support. They are all individually brilliant at what they do. So that's it. Thank you very much and hope to see you soon. Right, thank God that's done.
What's the matter? You think you forgot about me?
What's going on? No. Not now.
No, you need me.
No, you've been quiet all this time.
You need me, Dean.
No.
You need
Not
me.
No. We're not doing this
Because now it's time people saw your power.
No, we're not going through this. Not again. No.
My name is MeanMachineDean, and I have evolved.